Welcome to Fake Love and Flying Monkeys, the podcast where fake love is exposed. I'm Nova Gibson and I am your host. I'm the principal counsellor at Brighter Outlook Narcissistic Abuse Counselling.com.au. This space is dedicated to helping you reclaim your worth and understand the impact of toxic relationships with suspected narcissists. You deserve clarity, healing, and freedom from the pain of fake love and flying monkeys. So please leave a review and grab a copy of my book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. Let's uncover the truth and take back your power. Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. In this episode, we are going to be talking about something that you might be experiencing without even realizing it. And that is Narcissistic Victim Syndrome. Okay, so let's look at what Narcissistic Victim Syndrome is. Let's say you finally got out of that toxic relationship, maybe with a partner. You've managed to go no contact with a very toxic parent or your boss, and now you're left feeling like just an absolute shell of your former self. You're second guessing everything. You don't trust yourself. You don't trust anyone else either. You're walking on eggshells even when the narcissist isn't around, and you're questioning whether you're just too sensitive or somehow the problem. Sound familiar? Well, you are definitely not alone, and you are certainly not crazy, nor are you weak. You might just be experiencing something called NVS, Narcissistic Victim Syndrome. It's a non-clinical but a very real collection of symptoms and emotional fallout that survivors of narcissistic abuse often go through. So let's break it down together. Narcissistic victim syndrome is what happens to people who've been on the receiving end of short-term, long-term. I don't think the term of the abuse has that much relevance, but it's the type of abuse and the ongoing intentional nature of the abuse. It's not an official diagnosis in the DSM-5, which is the psychologist's world's big book of mental health disorders. I don't believe is really used by too many at this stage, but it's a term used by therapists and survivors to describe a very particular set of emotional and psychological symptoms that come from dealing with a narcissist. It's a term that is used by people who work in or who are part of the narcissistic abuse recovery community. Remember that time you went to see your counselor or your therapist because you were so filled with anxiety, depression. You felt like you were walking on eggshells 24 hours a day. And that just didn't go away after you were discarded or you managed to escape. You had all of those triggers and, of course, all of the symptoms we are going to be talking about soon. So when you went to your therapist or your counselor, you were probably more likely to be diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder or CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And it is very real after a relationship with a narcissist, and it can be devastating. Yes, you will have all of the same symptoms, flashbacks, triggers that you do with CPTSD, but there are a group of symptoms that make NVS more likely. And when you've had your light bulb moment and you know who and what you've been dealing with, then you can look at getting the right support for what you're going through. So as we know, narcissists are masters of psychological manipulation. They don't just hurt you, they confuse you by gaslighting you and then charming you by isolating you and, of course, blaming you for reacting to the pain they caused. So this type of abuse is not the kind that always leaves bruises. It can, but most of the time, the injuries are on the inside and they have a devastating effect on your mental health and they leave you doubting your self-worth. NVS can affect your confidence, your nervous system from walking on eggshells 24 hours a day, your ability to trust people, your memory, all of the relationships in your life, and even your sense of who you are. So let's look at some of the common tactics that we've spoken about before in previous episodes that narcissists use when they are inflicting their abuse upon you, which causes the NVS. So, of course, there's the habitual gaslighting. I never said that. You're imagining things. There's the love bombing, then the devaluing, where they do a complete shape shift and the love comes to a screeching halt. 1 minute you're their soulmate, the next you're garbage. Triangulation, bringing in other people to compete with or to judge you. The smear campaigns, telling others that you're the abusive or unstable one. And the good old little chestnut, the silent treatment as punishment for something you didn't even know that you did. So when you throw all of these strategies and more in together and they are being thrown at you on a consistent basis over time, then they're going to chip away at your sense of reality. And over time, they're going to cause deep emotional wounds. So here's some signs that you might have narcissistic victim syndrome. Okay, how do you know if you're dealing with NVS? Let's look at number one, which is hypervigilance. You are constantly on edge, waiting for the bomb to drop. Even when the narcissist is no longer in your life, you might flinch at texts or panic at the sound of a notification. I had a client, and I talk about this scenario in my book, Fake Love. Guys, please get it. But she, even years after the abuse had ended, she would just freeze at 4:30 every afternoon. And we finally worked it out that she was freezing at that time because her abuser was due home at 5 p.m. and she knew that 4:30 she had to go around, make sure the house was clean, the kids' bags weren't in the way. There was nothing that he could attack her over. And because she hadn't had the right support, she was still having this major trigger, this trauma flashback to the abuse she endured. It was a conditioned response. Number two, walking on eggshells. You second guess your tone, your words, even your facial expressions. If you're going to write an email to them or text them, then you go over that email all day just to make sure it's worded in a way that will give you the least amount of grief, the least punishment. And this is not normal, guys. But you've been trained to keep the peace at all costs, even if it means spending 10 hours trying to work out how to word an email to them. Your low self-esteem, number three. narcissists erode your confidence away slowly. Over time, you start to believe these lies that they told about yourself. Number 4, the brain fog and confusion. You forget things, you feel scattered, you struggle to make decisions. That, guys, is your nervous system trying to recover from that chronic stress, and where your brain was focused on surviving the abuse and most probably dissociation, brain fog, all of these coping mechanisms were there so you could survive the abuse. And of course, it's so overwhelming that it's more than likely that your memory is going to be affected, not to mention your brain maybe protecting you by blocking out some of those terrible things. That's what it did or does to keep you safe from the pain and the agony of those memories. And if that's you guys, please see a trauma-informed therapist who will be able to help you connect your experiences and, of course, heal those wounds and get your memory back to 100%. Number 5, extreme self-doubt. You don't trust your own perceptions. You might even ask yourself what they condition you to ask yourself, which is, was it really that bad? Maybe I am the problem. The obsessive thinking or rumination. You go over and over again these conversations you replay again and again in your mind, or arguments. You try to figure out what happened or how you could have fixed it. Isolation. You've lost friends. Family doesn't get it. Or you've pulled away from them because you don't feel safe anymore. Flashbacks or emotional triggers. Someone raises their voice or rolls their eyes and you are right back there in that trauma zone, even if it happened 10 years ago. Trouble trusting others. This is classic, to be expected, guys. The person who said they loved you the most in the world betrayed you at a soul level. You trusted them implicitly. So now you keep people at arm's length. You're scared to get close, even to the ones who do actually care. So if you're nodding along, guys, that's okay, because this is what narcissistic abuse does to even the strongest of people. So why does NVS happen? Why is narcissistic abuse so damaging? Well, here it is. It's so damaging and destructive because it essentially brainwashes you and changes your personality. It messes with your reality and it breaks you down from the inside out. Narcissists are really skilled at alternating between that affection and just utter cruelty. One day they'll be charming, as you know, and very attentive, and the next they're just outright cruel or cold, distant. And that push-pull dynamic gets you hooked on that emotional roller coaster. Your brain becomes addicted, trauma bonded to the highs and constantly on alert for the lows. And this keeps you stuck. Your nervous system never gets a break. You are always in survival mode. And over time, this makes you exhausted. It leads to burnout, anxiety, and sometimes physical illness as well. NVS is complex and it comes from ongoing chronic emotional and psychological abuse. And while it's actually not an official diagnosis yet, we all know about it in the narcissistic abuse recovery community. So this is how we refer to what you've been through, because as you know, this type of abuse is unlike any other type of relationship breakup or abuse, because of the covert and insidious nature of it that is not visible to anyone else and often the victim themselves. So let's just quickly look at some common misconceptions about NVS. Let's clear a few things up. Number one, it wasn't physical, so it couldn't have been abuse. Wrong. Emotional, psychological abuse can be just as damaging, if not more, than physical abuse. Number two, you stayed, so it mustn't have been that bad. Nope. Survivors often stay because they're trauma bonded, financially dependent, isolated, terrified, and so much more. But they were so charming. Number three. Well, are you sure it wasn't just a bad breakup? Yes, narcissists are often very charming to the outside world. That's what covert narcissists especially do. But their charm isn't who they are. And number four that you might hear from others is maybe you're overreacting. Isn't that what the narcissist said to you? Well, actually, you're probably underreacting. Narcissists train you to downplay your pain, minimize the abuse, sometimes even defend it. So let's look at how to heal from narcissistic victim syndrome. Can you get better? Can you heal? The answer to that, in my belief, is obviously yes, 1000% yes. But it is a process. It's not a straight line. This healing journey of yours is not going to be linear. So here are some suggestions. Please get the right support therapy, but not just any therapist. Some counseling is not always better than no counseling, because the wrong, often well-intentioned therapists will tell you the wrong thing. They'll have you sending letters to your abuser. Make sure they understand narcissistic abuse. Educate yourself, which I know all of you are doing. You're reading and watching video after video. Knowledge is power, and you need to understand what happened to you. Understanding narcissistic abuse helps you stop blaming yourself and gives you the ability to start reclaiming your identity. Connect with other survivors. Join a support group. There are so many online. They're mostly private. An online forum, or even just a trusted friend who's been through it. Sharing your story and talking to that person who can go, me too, helps you feel seen and validated. Practice self-care, self-compassion. You are not weak. You survived something that was brutal. You have to be kind to yourself, and you need to rebuild your identity. Start small. What do I like? The narcissist taught you to like what they do, and you've forgotten who you are, what your likes, what your actual dislikes are. What makes you laugh? Who were you before the narcissist? You get to rediscover all of that. And always remember that it was not your fault. You didn't attract them because you were naive or stupid. Narcissists are not fussy. They also target kind, empathic people. They have to be the opposite of them. They seek out people who love deeply and will give second chances, and people who often have their own wounds and they take advantage of those wounds. The fact that you're struggling now does not mean that you are forever broken. It means you were deeply impacted by this abuse by someone who knew exactly how to exploit your vulnerabilities and, of course, all of your good qualities, but you're still here, and that is your strength. If you're feeling crazy, remember, that's the goal of narcissistic abuse. They want you to feel crazy. That's what making you doubt your reality feels like. That's the goal of everything the narcissist puts you through. So it's not all in your head. It's real and it's heavy and it takes time to heal from, but you can and you will heal. You will reclaim your voice. You will take back your power and you will learn to trust yourself again. And you can absolutely build a life that's full of truth and safety and real love, not fake love. So if you've been through narcissistic abuse, please know there's nothing wrong with you for struggling. You just need to understand what you've been through and get the right support. You've been through something that most people don't understand, and you survived. And you know what? That makes you a warrior. And that brings us to the end of another Fake Love and Flying Monkeys episode. Yes, there is a name for what you have been through, guys. And I hope that one day soon that NVS will be recognized in the professional world. And maybe then there will be more support for the victims of narcissistic abuse. Now, if you would like one-on-one online counseling, your own individual support, please just see my website link in the description, and I would love to be able to help you as a counselor one-on-one via Zoom session in your healing journey. And you will also find a link to my book, Fake Love, which will also help you. Now, the best thing you can do, guys, if you would like to help support the channel, is to leave a rating and a review. You have no idea how much that helps. And of course, to share. Now, if you'd like to connect with each other, there is also a link there to join a private support group on Facebook. So you'll also find the link in the description. On that note, guys, it's bye from me for now. Until the next episode, please remember, you are worthy of love and you are worthy of so much more than a lifetime of fake love and flying monkeys.